It didn't hit me all at once. Not in the way you'd expect. Not like in the movies where everything crashes down in a second. It was more like this weird, heavy pause. Right at the edge of something I hadn't realized was already broken. The gate creaked open like always, scraping against the brick in that way I used to say I'd fix one day, but never did. Damp porch steps, drizzle already soaking through my hoodie sleeves, and no Bandit, not even a bark, not a jingle, not the thump of him rushing over like usual. Just silence, thick and wet like the air around me. The kind of silence that makes you stop mid-step because something in your chest tightens before your brain catches up. I called for him, once, then again. Knocked the treat jar against my hand. The one sound that usually brings him flying from wherever he is. Still nothing. Not a rustle. Not even a tail thump against the back wall. I walked the yard, peering into every dumb little corner he liked to crawl into. Nothing. Even checked under the back deck, even though he hated spiders. Mom showed up. In the doorway then, coffee in one hand, not even looking at me properly. She just said, flat and hollow, "Well, someone forgot to shut the gate." I told her I hadn't. That I know I hadn't. She shrugged and sipped her coffee like we weren't talking about a living thing who had literally followed me around since I was 12. Dad came down minutes later, looked at me like I was overreacting, and said, "He doesn't know how to survive out there. Hope someone kind gets to him first." I think that was the moment I realized. This wasn't a shared loss. This was just mine. I spent the whole day out, printing flyers, taping them up all over North 21st and Proctor, walking into vet clinics and shelters, typing and retyping the same plea into Tacoma Pets. I refreshed my phone so many times I thought the screen would crack. No replies, no leads, not even a maybe. I stood on street corners with his leash in my hand like an idiot, hoping maybe he'd smell it and run to me. I even called one of the shelters twice, just to make sure they hadn't missed a report. By the time the sun started to dip behind the pine trees, I felt like something inside me had been hollowed out and left open. But when I got home, nothing. No urgency, no questions. My sister had her earbuds in, laughed at something on her screen. When I asked if she'd seen Bandit, she said, "It's just a dog. You're acting like someone died. And maybe someone did. Or maybe I just started realizing who these people really were." I made dinner like normal, though nobody said thanks. I cleaned the kitchen, took out the trash, even though it wasn't my night. I did everything right and still. Silence. That night, I sat by the window till it got too dark to see anything past the fence. But I didn't move. I kept staring like maybe if I stayed long enough he'd walk back into frame, tail wagging, tongue out, ready to forgive me for whatever this was. He didn't. I guess I knew even then. Something else was going on. Something that didn't start this morning. Not really. It started with the flyers, not the ones I put up. Those were still taped to street lamps and store bulletin boards all over North Tacoma. It was the way they started disappearing. One or two at first, then whole stretches gone overnight. I found a bunch stuffed in a trash bin behind the Walgreens on 6th. Some were crumpled. A few were torn. All of them were mine. All of them ripped. Down on purpose. And whoever did it didn't even bother hiding the evidence. At first, I thought it was kids, or maybe someone annoyed about the tape marks. But it kept happening. And every time I put new ones up, they were gone the next day. Brought it up at dinner once. Mom was busy scrolling through her phone, nodding like she wasn't hearing me. Dad said something like, "People get tired of clutter." Then he went right back to the TV. No one asked if I'd gotten any leads. No one even said his name. The only thing they did say, a few days later, was when Dad came home from the hardware store and started drilling into the gate. Said he was putting in a deadbolt. No more latch, no more chain, just a full metal lock. When I asked why, he didn't even look at me, just said, "No more dogs. We're not doing this again." I didn't answer. I think I just stood there holding the screwdriver he handed me and felt like I was in someone else's house. Like I'd been airlifted into a place that used to feel familiar, and now the walls were off by a few degrees, but I didn't stop looking. I couldn't. I walked every block of the neighborhood and the next one over. I spent hours on Craigslist, Nextdoor, Facebook Marketplace, even the forums nobody uses anymore. I messaged people who posted about lost pets just to double check. I called every shelter within a 10-mile radius once a week. Some of them already knew my name. One afternoon, I ran into Mrs. Leary, who works the register at the Kroger near Union. She looked at me funny and asked if I'd found him yet. I said no, and she frowned, real sharp, like she just remembered something. Said someone had brought in a dog that looked a lot like Bandit to the shelter down in Parkland, that they'd only kept him a day before someone picked him up. I left my groceries on the shelf and drove straight there. Didn't even check my gas light. When I got to the desk and showed a photo, the guy barely looked before nodding. Yeah, he was here. Black and white, kinda shaggy, sweet temperament. Yeah, that's him. I swear my heart started running, before my legs did. But then he added, he's gone now. Someone picked him up next day. Said it was a family situation. Paperwork said they had prior claim. I asked who. He hesitated. Then, sorry, we can't share names. It was a woman, though, blonde, mid-40s maybe. I nodded, but my hands were already cold. I said thank you, walked back to my car like I wasn't shaking, and sat there with my seatbelt on and the engine off for 15 minutes. That night, I asked Mom. Nothing dramatic, just, "You didn't take Bandit to Parkland, did you?" She blinked, not even surprised by the question. Said, "You really think I'd give your dog away?" I looked at her and didn't say anything, because that wasn't a no. And also, yeah, maybe I did. I tried to believe her. I did. But there was this knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. A weight in my chest that wasn't just grief anymore. It was suspicion. And once you feel that shift, it's like every silence becomes a clue. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept thinking, he wouldn't have left on his own. Not like that. Not without looking back, and not without me. It was almost exactly a month later. A Sunday, I think. Gray outside, typical for Tacoma. And I was halfway through a bowl of cold cereal when I opened Facebook and scrolled like muscle memory. I wasn't even looking for anything. Just killing time before homework. But then, there he was. Bandit. Clear as day. New collar, new leash. Sitting on someone's porch with his ears perked up like always. And smiling somehow. That dumb squint he used to do when he was happy. The photo was in a local group, Tacoma Dog Moms. A woman had posted it with a caption that made my hands shake. "Thanks to the sweetest woman who gave us this blessing. We love him so much already." I clicked the profile, a Grayson co-mom, and my heart dropped through the floor. Her name was Lindsay. She lived in Puyallup, maybe 30 minutes from us. And her mom? Public friends list. Same last name as mine. Same city. Same middle initial as Mom. I didn't think. I messaged her right then. "Hi, I think that might be my dog. His name's Bandit. Where did you get him?" 10 minutes later, I was blocked. Like, full-on can't see profile, can't message, like I never existed. I sat with that for a while. Then I screenshot the post, every comment, every like. I went back to that group, downloaded the full resolution image. Then I got up, walked down the hall, and knocked on Mom's door. She was folding laundry like nothing had happened in the last month. I showed her my phone, the photo full screen. I said, "Explain this. This is Bandit." She looked. 1 second, 2. Then she exhaled through her nose and said, "He's not your dog. He was our family's dog. And we made a decision. It was the right thing for everyone." I think the silence in that room was louder than anything I've ever heard. I said, "You gave him away?" And before she could answer, Dad walked by behind me and added, "You weren't ready for that kind of responsibility. You couldn't even keep the gate shut." That was the moment I felt my voice try to do something. Yell, maybe. But nothing came out. I just turned, walked to my room, closed the door, and opened my laptop. I created a folder. Evidence. I wasn't even sure what I planned to do with it. Not yet. First file, screenshot of the Facebook post. Second, her profile, cached info. Third, the scanned intake sheet from the shelter in Parkland, which I'd gone back for that morning, begged a favor from a friend of a friend who worked behind the desk. It had Bandit's intake number, photo, and release date. One day after, he vanished. There's a kind of anger that's quiet, like static under your skin. That's what I felt, and I knew it was just getting started. Update. Turns out, it wasn't the first time. 2 weeks passed without another word about it. At least, not out loud. I didn't push, I didn't bring it up, but I was collecting things. Old photos, vaccination records, that one worksheet from 4th grade where I wrote about Bandit being my best friend. Every little bit that proved he wasn't just a family dog, he was mine. My routine, my responsibility, my reason to wake up early. And then I made a mistake. Or maybe it wasn't. I was looking for an old camping photo from when I was 10, scrolling through a backup Google account that used to be my dad's. I don't even know why it was still logged in, but there it was. A folder I didn't recognize, titled simply, Max. I clicked it, and it hit me like cold water. Max was our first dog, a yellow lab. We'd had him when I was in middle school. I was told he ran into the street one day while I was at school, and that a car hit him. It was the first time I ever saw my dad cry. But the photos? They told another story. There he was, Max, alive, healthy, playing in a backyard that wasn't ours, sitting beside a man I barely recognized at first, then remembered as one of Dad's friends from work, a guy who'd moved to Spokane. There were even holiday photos, dated months after the accident. Max in a Santa hat. Max curled up on a plaid couch. Max with a new name tag. I sat back and did the math. I had been younger then, too young to ask the right questions. I'd believed everything they told me, just like now. That's when it all shifted. It wasn't just about Bandit anymore. It was about a pattern, about lies disguised as hard choices, about pretending it was for our own good, about the kind of people who smile and say they're sorry while they're already moving. I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything. I started building. I created an Instagram account. The handle, a dogs they gave away. The first post, a side-by-side of Max and Bandit. The second, a screenshot of the shelter receipt, time-stamped and signed. The third, one of the captions I'll never forget writing. 2 dogs, 2 lies, same family. It didn't blow up instantly, but the next morning, I noticed shares, comments, people tagging each other. Someone linked it in a local Facebook group. A girl I hadn't talked to since high school messaged me. Is this real? Even Mrs. Leary left a comment. I remember, Max! I always wondered what happened to him. By that night, Mom was standing in my doorway, phone in hand, face tight with fury. She didn't yell. She just said, "Take it down, now. You're humiliating us." I looked at her. Not like a son looks at his mom, but like a person looks at someone who lied to his face and thinks he should just accept it. I said, "I'll take it down when they come back, but we both know they won't." She didn't answer, just turned and walked away. That was the last time she tried to talk to me about it. They say I made it public, but they made it personal. It didn't take long for things to turn, but I still wasn't ready for how fast it spread. First, it was my sister, slamming her door so hard one night the sound echoed through the vents like a warning shot. She called me a traitor. Said I humiliated the family, that I made us a laughingstock, and destroyed everything we'd spent years trying to look like. My parents didn't say much, but silence can speak volumes, and Dad's silence was deafening. No eye contact. No casual pass the salt at dinner. Just absence, even when he was right there, sitting with us at the same table, acting like I was some vague shadow that didn't need acknowledgement. But what cut deeper than anything was what started happening outside the house. I'd wave to Mr. Keating down the block and he'd just look past me like I was air. The woman who always ran the register at Safeway suddenly needed to go restock canned tomatoes every time I entered. Neighbors stopped inviting us to things. The air felt thick when I walked down our street, like every window had someone behind it, staring but never speaking. And the weirdest part? Bandit had become a meme. Someone ripped photos from the page and made little TikToks with sad violin music and fake crying captions. When your dog gets rehomed without your consent. 15,000 likes. Haha. Hilarious. I didn't laugh. I couldn't. I felt like something inside me was boiling, but the lid was stuck shut. There was no yelling, no punching walls, just this heat, spreading quiet and deep. I was walking around with a pressure cooker in my chest, pretending I was just fine. So when the letter came in the mail, an actual legal notice, saying my parents were taking me to court for defamation, unless I took the page down, I didn't even blink. Honestly, I kind of expected it. They didn't want to talk to me, but they had time to talk to lawyers. Makes sense, right? I showed up at court in the same outfit I wore to my last job interview. Shirt ironed, folder in hand. That folder was thick. Shelter receipts, chat screenshots, time-stamped posts, printed photos of Max and Bandit in places they never should have been. I even included one of those school essays from years ago, where I called Bandit my reason to get out of bed. The judge, a woman with gray streaks in her braid and reading glasses hanging from a chain, looked over the papers slowly and didn't rush a single page. Then she said something I'll remember for the rest of my life. This isn't defamation. It's disclosure. He told the truth. We walked out of the courtroom and I half expected Dad to say something. Anything. Maybe even just a nod. But he walked right past me like I was just another guy on the sidewalk. I stood there for a second, not even mad, just hollow. It was like seeing a stranger leave a building and realizing that stranger used to help you with your math homework. That kind of grief, slow and quiet, takes up space in your lungs. On the way home, about a block from our house, I saw a new dog playing in the neighbor's yard. Black and white coat, border collie. Same ears, same bounce. My knees actually buckled a little. I stood there watching until someone called its name, Jasper, and it ran inside. I didn't move for a long time. Just stood there with my hands in my pockets, counting my breath. That night I sat on my bed and opened my laptop. Made a new post. No hashtags, no filters, no edits. I didn't get justice. Not really, but I don't need justice. I just needed to not be quiet anymore. The comments started slow. Then more came in. Then more. My aunt did the same with my childhood. Cat. My mom gave away our beagle when I left for college and told me he ran away. Your story matters. You're not alone. And maybe for the first time, the real first time, I believed that. Because people weren't laughing. They were listening, and I wasn't invisible anymore. What you give away doesn't just disappear. My parents don't speak to me anymore. I moved out a month ago and have been staying with a friend who has a futon and no rules about late-night pacing. I'm working shifts at a local hardware store off South 38th, and slowly building up a savings account with no specific goal in mind other than distance. Emotional, physical, all of it. One night, out of nowhere, my sister texted. I hadn't heard from her since the whole court situation. Her message was 2 lines. You killed this family with your posts. I stared at the screen for a second, and then typed back, no, they killed it when they started lying. She didn't reply, but she read it. Weeks passed. Then one morning, I checked my DMs and saw a message from someone I didn't know. Just a follower who'd been following the Bandit story. They'd been at a dog festival in Olympia and thought they recognized him. Attached was a photo. It was him. Same eyes, same fur pattern, same slight crookedness in the tail from when he jumped the garden fence as a puppy. He was there, wearing a blue bandana, licking the hand of a child who looked like she'd just given him a treat. I drove. Out. Didn't RSVP, didn't tell anyone. Just showed up and stood behind a food truck, half hidden, watching from a distance. And yeah, that was him. Bandit. Alive. Loved. Completely okay. Part of me wanted to run up and say his name just to see if he remembered me. But I didn't. I stayed right there, because I saw something else in that moment. He was happy. Really happy. And it wasn't my place to interrupt that. My throat tightened, but my face stayed still. No dramatic breakdown. No movie scene confrontation. Just this low ache under the ribs and something wet in my eyes I wiped away before anyone saw. Then I got in my car, drove home, and archived the account. All of it. Every post, every comment, every DM, saved, but silent. Like closing a chapter. Not erasing it, just setting it down. That night I walked into a tattoo parlor off Pacific Avenue and got a simple outline of a dog's silhouette inked on my arm. No shading, no color, just lines. It wasn't about pain or remembrance or grief. It was about marking something real. A reminder that once, there was someone in my life who never betrayed me. A few days later, I got an email from the woman, who now owns Bandit. She'd found the old posts, pieced the story together, and wanted me to know how much he was loved. Said she'd never had a dog like him before. Said she'd be happy to meet if I ever wanted to. I stared at the message for a while. Then I wrote back, "Thank you for loving him. That's more than enough." And I meant it. I thought that would be the end of it, but one night, walking back from my shift, hoodie pulled over my head, earbuds in, I passed a house a few streets down from where I used to live. There was laughter inside, and through the window I caught a glimpse of a dog. Not Bandit, obviously, but something about the way he tilted his head reminded me of that exact moment in childhood when I first taught Bandit to wait before crossing the street. That weird, unblinking loyalty. That complete trust. I kept walking. But that image stuck with me. Because the truth is, what you give away doesn't just disappear. It finds new homes, new names, new memories. And sometimes, if you're lucky, it sends a signal back that it's okay, that it's safe, that your grief isn't wasted. Sometimes the only way to get your voice back is to leave the room completely. And never go back. But that doesn't mean you stop listening. It just means you're finally ready to hear something else.